Have you noticed that people are still having sex? All the denouncement had absolutely no effect. Parents and counselors constantly scorn them, but people are still having sex and nothing seems to stop them.
Should parents teach their children about sex? Well, since this article was written by JWs, I think I already know the answer. Many parents go to great lengths to protect their children from contracting harmful diseases. Like what? Like STDs? They're kids. Jesus. Parental training and moral guidance is essential because children are increasingly being exposed to graphic sexual material on TV and at the meetings. On the internet, in books and in comics. Who in their right mind would let a little kid go on the internet alone? Unbelievable. The age of what children are learning it, and who is teaching them. Here's a novel idea. Maybe kids don't need to be thinking about sex. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe adults should think about sex, and kids should think about cartoons or riding bicycles or climbing trees. That's a thing of the past, though. We're in the last days. Children have to think about sex. And look, they're going to hear about sex at the Kingdom Hall. Every Kingdom Hall meeting is filled with sex, so you're just going to have to, they're going to ask about it. Mommy, what sucks? Children get a very powerful and damaging kind of sexual education from marketers and popular. That's why I don't go to the market anymore. Each time I go there, I get powerful and damaging sex. Young children need to know how their bodies work. Mommy, my bladder's full of piss. I feel like I'm going to explode, but I don't know how my body works. How do I release the piss? I feel like my gut's gonna blow. Young children need to know how their bodies work, how to care for themselves physically, and how to protect themselves from immoral people. Would child molesters fit into that category of immoral people? No! The child molesters are repentant, therefore fit to be around children. Before puberty, the age at which signs of sexual maturing begin to appear, a daughter needs to know about the changes that will occur in her body and understand why and how menstruation takes place. You see, when menstruation takes place, blood starts gushing out of somebody's vag hole. It's roughly the color of this bike or even the shirt you have on. Am I getting through to you, son? Similarly, a boy should know in advance about nocturnal emissions or wet dreams. You know what? I'd like to time out here and ask you a question. This is a question for any JWs watching this video. I'd just like to offer a question. You see, when a young boy comes into puberty and starts becoming a man, or a young girl, for that matter, begins having hormones. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's basically 3 ways that those hormones are released. Either you get laid, you whack off, or you have a wet dream in which basically your mind whacks off for you. Since you have refrained from the strong desire to whack off, your mind will subconsciously do it while you sleep. And say that, let's use this woman here for example. If she doesn't get fucked, or she doesn't rub one out, at some point while she is sleeping, she will have an involuntary erotic dream, probably imagining that one of the fat, gray-haired elders at the hall is fucking her, and in that way, the necessary process of releasing those hormones will be accomplished. Not because she wants to, but because her body will do it for her. Now, I'm also guessing that this young woman would not be too welcome to the idea of going to the service meeting, going out in service the next day and telling the group, "Oh, you wouldn't believe the wet dream I had last night. I got my rocks off in the best way possible. I mean, I was imagining getting plowed by one of the elders, and let me tell you, it really did it for me. But it was involuntary. It's just part of nature. You see, I have hormones in my body that have to be released in some way, shape, or form, and since I'm not a married woman, and I'm not getting laid, I have either the choice of whacking off, which is strictly prohibited by Watchtower, and since I can't jerk off, I will just let it build up for a week, and I will writhe in my seat and get stirred up thinking about sex, and then at some point, maybe 5 or 6 days later, I will have an orgasmic dream. What do you think the other people in the service group will say? Tying a rubber band around your private parts and hoping you don't explode at some point. If God didn't want you to whack off or get laid, why did he build those hormones into you that have to be released in some way? Basically, I guess the question for JWs is, if Jehovah doesn't want you to get off, why does he make it necessary to get off, and why is it impossible not to, in some way or another? Look, seriously, what do you think would happen if you put a clothespin on the end of your dick? What do you think would happen to you? Do you think that's healthy? Do you think you wouldn't wind up in an emergency room at some point? By the way, if this woman is talking to a child about sex, I'm glad that she has a big smile on her face, because I remember that when I was a child, if someone was going to talk to me about sex, I like for them to sit in a very arousing position. I mean, when somebody just jams it all the way up in there, it's great. When children are little, parents can start teaching them about the correct names for their body parts. No, don't call it a vag. It's a wee-wee. They're... the correct names. Dad, what's the correct name for my dick? That's... Yeah, first of all, you have to give it the correct name, then you have to describe how it works. Son, your dick is used for pissing, and it's also used for sex. I don't understand. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna unbuckle my pants, and I'm gonna demonstrate something with the wheel of this bike. I need you to do the pedaling there, and we'll just hope it doesn't get caught in the chain. Unreal. This is the Watchtower, folks. Loving parents teach their children 3 key lessons about these body parts. They are special and private. They are not to be discussed in a bad way. No, I don't think this woman's discussing sex in a bad way. It seems like she is really giving this young girl something to think about. I mean, earlier today, she was thinking about what crowns to use when she got home, but now she's getting an earful about the joys of sex. They are generally not to be touched by or exposed to others, unless that person is an authority figure, such as an elder. When should parents start instruction? Earlier than many realize. How did I guess that the Watchtower Riders were going to say earlier than you think? A girl might first menstruate at the age of 10 or even earlier. Holy shit, what the fuck just happened? A boy might have his first nocturnal emission as early as the age of 11. Come on. Really? These JWs are seriously wanting you to describe graphic sex to children? Really? They really want these JWs... Well, it seems like the JWs are enjoying this a great deal. I hate to, deprive them of that pleasure, but maybe you could, I don't know. 10? You're really going to be describing wet dreams and people ejaculating to a 10-year-old? All right. Well, there's 7 million of you, so how can I argue? How can I argue with a corporation? These life-altering events can be very disturbing if children do not understand what's happening. I'm having a wet dream. Boom goes the dynamite. The first time I shit, it messed me up really bad because I had no fucking idea what was happening. I thought I had jock itch. Children need to be reassured ahead of time that there is nothing wrong with such natural developments in their bodies. Take note of when your child starts entering puberty. Look at the signs of their development and report it to the elders. This is also the time to help them understand the value of the importance of following the Bible's moral standards. Yeah, when you're in grade school, don't just let anybody fuck you. You gotta be very discerning about your moral standards. You know, don't give it up on the first date. If an elder comes over, make sure he buys you a juice box and brings you a PB&J. Most secular sex education programs fail to provide. Yes, that's the problem with sex education programs at school, is that they just don't begin by opening up to Proverbs 6, 27 through 35, which, as we all know, is a description of sex. We don't do that. Instead of baseball cards, JW kids get Bible cards. That's right, you just cut out along the dotted line. And you collect them all. And in this one, we have Joseph. And this guy who's wearing a beach towel wrapped around his wiener, we have him here getting sexually assaulted by a horny married woman. And this is a collector's card for children. You see, one of the questions that children should ask themselves is, when pressured by Potiphar's wife to have sex, what did Joseph do? And here, just describing sex, in case they can't read, they have if they're not old enough to read yet, they can still figure out what's going on by seeing this woman lying in bed in her nightgown, and she is a desperate housewife craving sex, and so she sees the pool boy here with the towel wrapped around his wang. If you're around Jehovah's Witnesses, you will discover they have a one-track mind, especially when it comes to children. Here's a family review. This is for children, by the way. This is the children's edition. And when it comes to children, they seem to have, you're going to notice that they seem to have one thing on their mind. Can you guess what it is? Boom goes the dynamite. This is children. Children, baseball cards. No. Harry Potter, absolutely not. Because Jehovah's Witnesses have special intentions for children. Here we have another collector's card. And in this one, we have an army full of angry men about to go fight a battle. And here, this guy, here we have a person, maybe you could, I don't know. They're going to go do some witnessing, kind of like Jehovah's Witnesses. If you've ever heard of them, the people go door to door. Except this person is going to bring a child along as a human shield. He's going to stand in front, he's going to do a blockade in front of this army here for his own religious ideas. This man has strong religious ideas, and he's going to face off with this army, but he brought along a handy human shield. It's Jehovah's Witness way, folks. Yeah! I'm a JW kid. I'm ready to die.
At this very moment, people are still having sex in a downtown condo or street in the projects. Although you can't see them or hear their breathing sounds, someone in this world is having sex right now. People are still having sex. People are still having sex. People are still...
What? Like STDs? They're kids. Jesus. Parental training and moral guidance is essential because children are increasingly being exposed to graphic sexual material on TV and at the meetings. Oh, I mean on the internet, in books and in comics. Who in their right mind would let a little kid go on the internet alone? Unbelievable. The age of what children are learning it, and who is teaching them. Should parents teach their children about sex? Well, since this article was written by JWs, I think I already know the answer. Many parents go to great lengths to protect their children from contracting harmful diseases. Like what? A novel idea? Maybe kids don't need to be thinking about sex. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe adults should think about sex, and kids should think about cartoons or riding bicycles or climbing trees.
Have you noticed that people are still having sex? All the denouncement had absolutely no effect. Parents and counselors constantly scorn them, but people are still having sex and nothing seems to stop them.